Hello, lovely. Today you're going to see me going back and forth, changing my mind, and being ridiculously indecisive. Um, in short, this particular layout, I started off with an idea that I wanted to record the Great Doughnut Heist, which, as some of you may know, was when we were cat sitting for a friend, and one particular cat decided he liked glazed donuts and ate them. Um, so it was considered the Great Doughnut Heist. Said cat has not been forgiven by my husband just yet, but I wanted to record the moment because I've got some cracking photos of the donuts, the teeth marks, and the culprit itself. So let's get cracking. I wanted to use a very simple sort of news related, if you like, newspaper style theme. That was the original idea. Um, so I started with these horizontal strips and stuck them back onto cardstock, craft cardstock, and then I started matting the photos. Now, this is one of those where I played around a lot. I couldn't quite make it work the way things were, and although the initial idea was sound, it just wasn't working with these photos. So you can see here that I'm trying different papers, different backgrounds, different methods, and eventually I gave up because it just wasn't working. So I went back to the drawing board and decided actually I need a different background. So I pulled out this red one and eventually, after a bit of trial and error, decided nope, that's not going to work for me. Just I'm not feeling it. Scrapbooking for me is very gut based, and it's not so much that I know what I like, but I know what I don't like, and I know when I don't like something. So, just playing around with these bits of paper, see what happens, and finally, I will come to a sort of agreeable point where I'm happy with it. But this is not it. As you can see, I'm still trying to figure this out, trying different strips, different stripes, and it's still not working for me. So we're going to move on from this, and I'm going to give up on those two efforts, and this is trial number 3. So went back to my box of papers, and I actually went through everything bit by bit to find some, not so much colours and shapes, but papers that I thought would work with the photos, that complemented the photos. Like I say, it's a gut process for me. So get rid of all of those papers. I've pulled out a couple that I like the look of, and we're going to go from there. And we're back to the beginning with a lot of trial and error. This time, I'm pleased to say it worked and I was happy with it. So I pulled out that green and blue paper, which I used as the background, and then this B-side, which has a lovely wood grain and a nice cream colour, which has the stars as a background. So again, playing around, and I've sort of got an idea of, at this point, of how I want to arrange the photos, which works quite well, believe it or not. So once I've finally settled on that, get it stuck down, and then I can start embellishing and playing around a bit more. So the usual scraps have come out, messing around with those, seeing whether they're going to work. Strange enough, they didn't. What a surprise. This particular layout, I just spent ages playing with bits to see whether it would or wouldn't work. And rather than messing around with more scraps of paper, I decided to just go for embellishment. I like the initial layout, I like the way it's looking, so let's start getting some embellishment in there and building up a page. I've got these border strips, which are from the Scenic Route or SEI. I'm not sure. They're old anyway. They're from like 2008 or something. So they need to go on a layout or go. I've pulled out some frames that I quite like the look of, and I'm going to punch out some circles, and then I'm going to play around with these border strips. Now I really like the effect of the dark navy against the teal. I think that looks brilliant. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to start arranging things. Just it's playing around with different things, different ideas, and seeing what works. If I like it, it gets stuck down. If I don't like it, it doesn't get stuck down. It gets used either on a different project or at a later date. So we're going to go in with some circles, some stickers, and really it is just playing around and seeing what works and what doesn't work. I'm really liking the documented frame. I think that's brilliant, hence why it's getting stuck down. I just rearranged the photos, and now I'm actually going to start looking at sticking the photos down at long last. I've got space for my title to the left hand side I'm going to go with rather than the right hand. I've got loads of space on the right hand side, but I think keeping that as white space is going to work really well for me. So we're going to keep it as white space. And again, I'm just coming in with different embellishments, seeing if they work, seeing if they don't work. That circle frame that I had, I've cut it in half because it'll go further and it helps to make the page look really cohesive. Sometimes I use all of it, sometimes I don't. I'll decide eventually, I always do. Now, getting those circles that I had before stuck down, I've got a couple of areas for embellishment. So one down the right hand side of the photos, one down the left hand side. And then comes the difficult bit with this, which is what kind of font I'm going to use. So it's called the Great Doughnut Heist. And as you can see, I've pulled out literally the world's supply of fonts to see what's going to work, what's not going to look right. That's the idea anyway. And I actually got quite decisive with this, given that the rest of the page was so indecisive as a process. Now, I don't want it to be massive fonts, but I do need it to stand out. And I've got some really good space to the left of the photo for this. And rather than going horizontal, I'm going to put the title vertically, because that way I've got a lot more space. I'm not going to use up as much space on the right. I'm not going to take left. I'm not going to take over. I'm not going to be trying to squash things together. So vertically should work quite nicely. So I've got really good space here for it and some really good lines to help ground the fonts. I knew I wanted to use this sort of cut out font for the word heist because, you know, who wouldn't? It was either that or going to the papers and taking out and cutting and pasting letters. And once I've got those stuck down and decided where they're going, it's now just Doughnut. That's it. And deciding on the word or font for the Doughnut bit was a little trickier than I thought because I did have a think about certain other ones that may or may not work, but no, this one works beautifully with it. And I've also used some really small letter stickers rather than journaling. So I've got the culprit, the evidence, and the crime scene. Yeah, why not? Because that's what I'm recording. And it's just rather than doing a load of journaling on here because I want to keep this really plain and I haven't really factored in any journaling space because I don't tend to journal. So I'll get those stuck down, and because it just didn't look quite finished, I have some cork arrow stickers which I do eventually use on this just to point things in the right direction, if you like, no pun intended. So that's pretty much it. We're almost done here. I'm just straightening up the stickers, making sure I'm happy with where I've got them and that they're not covering over too much photo but not going too far into the page. Yeah, just playing around with a couple of the extra circles and seeing where it takes me. So we've got, rather than the culprit, it's the devious fluffy little bastard, because that's what he gets called. And that's everything. That's all that page is. It was quite a lengthy process to get to this point, but I'm glad I persevered with it. And I hope it inspires you to create a page and record something really random, and also not give up when it's just not working for you. Anyway, have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye!